All right. Welcome everyone to the San Antonio Bitcoin Club's presentation of Mi Primer Bitcoin's Bitcoin Intro course. In this brief course, we will gain an understanding of what money is, why it is broken, what Bitcoin is, how Bitcoin works, and how to use Bitcoin. Understanding money. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a monetary revolution before tomorrow morning. Quote from Henry Ford. Money is the most marketable good which people acquire because they want to offer it in later acts of interpersonal exchange. Quote from Ludwig von Mises. There are three primary functions of money. One is a medium of exchange, another is to store value, and the third is to be a unit of account, such as in a marketplace. The evolution of money has been gradual but continuous across history. Starting with seashells, we quickly found out thousands of years ago that precious metals made the best form of money. They saw the rise of empires, and the move to fiat saw their fall. We had gold-backed currencies that transitioned to fiat, physical and digital. And now we are seeing the dawn of a new age of currency and money with the decentralized and digital networks beginning with Bitcoin. What are the consequences of fiat money? The consequences is that input costs rise, input prices rise for everything and everyone. In the case of businesses, they have two choices. They can either raise prices, which passes the inflation and the cost increase to consumers and to customers. That is not very popular though, and it typically leads to decreases in their market sustainability. So many businesses choose to hide the increased costs. And there are two ways to do that. Either reduce the quality or size of your product, or you deteriorate the quality of its ingredients. As a consequence of moving to a fiat monetary system, the purchasing power of the US dollar has fallen drastically since the Federal Reserve was created. As of 2017, you can see here, the dollar has lost more than 96% of its value since the Federal Reserve Act was signed. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that is finite and exists outside of the control of governments and banks. Let us watch a brief video on that.
When money is easy to make, society begins to break.
So how do we make money that's easy to carry but hard to create?
Well, one solution is Bitcoin. Back in 2008, I became fed up with government money, with the corruption, the manipulation, so I created a digital currency. Digital money that can be sent directly from one person to another without any bank or government involved. And the best part? It's hard money.
It's the hardest money ever invented!
Bitcoin is very hard to make more of. Each new coin gets added to the supply only after a computer works very hard to solve a math problem, where there's no shortcut and solving it costs a lot of energy and time.
Okay, but if it's on a computer, can't I just copy and paste?
Not with Bitcoin. You see, there's a public record of every Bitcoin ever created. It's called the blockchain. It's like a puzzle, and each Bitcoin has its own unique shape. And because everyone has a copy of the public record, if someone tries to fake a Bitcoin, it won't fit the puzzle and will be rejected by the network before anyone can use it. That's why Bitcoin is so safe from criminals and the government.
You said criminals twice.
And unlike dollars, which can be printed endlessly, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. It's almost impossible to inflate. The only way to get it is to earn it or buy it from someone who has.
Aha!
No offense, but if you control Bitcoin, couldn't you manipulate it just like the government?
I don't control it. No one person does. It's controlled by a public network of Bitcoin users that anyone can join. So if someone wanted to change something in Bitcoin's code, they would need to get the majority of the millions of Bitcoin users to agree to it, or the change doesn't happen. And when has the majority of us agreed on anything?
One-ply toilet paper is garbage!
Touché.
Wow, I didn't know made-up money could make so much sense.
Today, millions of people send Bitcoin instantly and cheaply to each other around the world without any bank or government involved. And because Bitcoin is hard money you can't just print more of, the more people who use it, the more valuable it becomes.
Emily, if we take Lyle's Bitcoin, we could be rich.
I could pay for college entirely! You could outsource your movie and pay to have your name in the credits.
Slow down. I'm not saying that Bitcoin will make you rich quick, or even at all. Right now, only about 1% of the world owns Bitcoin. And because it's still being adopted, some days it goes up and even down.
Also, investments, though potentially lucrative, can be risky.
Only invest what you're willing to lose. We know. Wow, I think I get it. Good money should be easy to use, but hard to create.
And because Bitcoin is digital, it's fast and cheap to use. And the blockchain makes it hard to inflate.
Thanks, Mr. Satoshi.
What?
Mr. Satoshi?
He's gone? Or was he ever even here?
Thank you, Tuttle Twins, for that wonderful synopsis on hard money should be easy to use and hard to create. So the fiat system versus Bitcoin. The fiat system is a centralized, closed, controlled system by central banks and governments, and the supply of units is unlimited. With Bitcoin, it is a decentralized, open system supported by peer-to-peer users. It is uncounterfeitable, and it is finite. There is a supply limit. Now, Bitcoin is many things. It is the monetary unit, which can be divisible to 8 decimals, called satoshis. It is also the network. All Bitcoin is the connected nodes with the common rule set under consensus of how it works. And thirdly, it is the blockchain, the mechanism that allows us to find consensus. It is a linked record of verified transactions going back to the very first block Satoshi mined back in 2009. So, peer-to-peer transactions, how it works. Someone requests a transaction, which is broadcast to the peer-to-peer network of computers called nodes. The mining nodes, which we call miners, verify the transaction and combine it to form a proposed data block. The miner that successfully finds the block hash is allowed to add the new block to the existing blockchain, and the transaction is complete. So basically, you scan a QR code and you click send. The network hears the broadcast transaction and processes it within usually an hour or less, and then the transaction is complete. But that is the irreversible transaction. So the reason it takes 10 minutes is because we're making the block via the mining network. That is the mechanism that secures the network by ensuring that a single block only occurs every 10 minutes. So all of these companies provide the service. Bitcoin takes the service away from a company and it gives it to the whole planet. The people are the users, the enforcers, and the middleman, so to speak. So because the people are the middleman, there is no middleman. All right, so here we have two visuals that really just show the difference between the untethered to reality fiat system, where they just print as many units as they need to function, the government, versus the honest, enforced by consensus of the decentralized community that runs Bitcoin, that it will never exceed 21 million Bitcoin units. That is the maximum that will ever occur. Whereas the US M2 money supply, this is just from 1960 to 2023. And in that time period, we went from 300 billion to 21 trillion different dollars within the system. And of course, basic supply and demand, if the supply increases, the value of each unit goes down. And the supply of dollars has increased at an exponential rate, significantly faster than the population. So the value of each dollar per person goes down. Now, Bitcoin did not come out of nowhere. It is the result of 40 years of research and development. The foundation of the entire internet, and Bitcoin as well, is TCP/IP. first created by Cerf and Kahn in 1974, a protocol for pocket network intercommunication. So TCP/IP is a protocol. It allows the communication of our computer networks, and it is foundational to everything that came after it that ultimately led to Bitcoin in 2008. So what is a Bitcoin wallet? So this is basically an app, like Venmo or Cash App, that you would have on your phone or your computer. And there are different types of wallets. But first, let's go over the basics. You have a seed phrase, your private key, your public key, and your receiving address. I'm not sure if it talks about this a little bit later or not. But so a seed phrase is basically just your foundation of the wallet that you have to keep secret. It's 12 words that you write down on a piece of paper and you keep in a secure location, because that 12 words is the Bitcoin effectively. So if somebody gets their hands on those 12 words, they have your Bitcoin, the same as you do. So it's very important to keep those 12 words in a physical form, not connected to any digital device, so that it can't be hacked out of your device. So you have physical pen and paper that you write it down. And some people even stamp it into steel to make it more resistant to like water damage or fire. A little bit technical, you have your private key, which is essentially the same thing as your seed phrase. It's just it's what your seed phrase connects to. And your public key, which is the address that people can send you Bitcoin to. So think of your Bitcoin wallet as like a safety deposit box. You have the key that allows you to open the box and spend what's in it. But the box has a slot at the top, which is your public key, that anyone in the entire world can deposit Bitcoin into. But they can't get the Bitcoin without the private key, which only you have. So for very large sums, it's very common to use a hardware wallet. But for smaller sums where the security, I mean, if you lose like $100, you're not gonna, oh no, I'm ruined. But if you lose 100 million, because there are wallets that are pretty massive. Now there are two different kinds of wallets. So there's the self-custodial, which is the type we're talking about, the ones where you write down the code, software or hardware. You are directly in control and own the Bitcoin that you have. Then there's the more traditional, so to speak, custodial method, where you have a company like Cash App, Venmo, Coinbase, Strike, River, like there's any number of them, but you have a company that on your behalf holds and controls Bitcoin. So if the company goes under, you're out of your money, you know, or if you can't reach them for some reason, or if they lock your account for some reason. There's any number of potential issues with custodial, but a lot of people are afraid of this because they don't trust themselves. You know, so there is an element of self-responsibility when you have self-custody. It's scary, but it is very fulfilling to know that nobody else is between you and the Bitcoin. Like if something goes wrong, it's your fault, not somebody, oh, I was hacked, you know, and the business went under or something like that. Like you trust yourself more than you trust others, or you trust others and it can bite you. Think of how, like I read stories all the time about banks, literally banks with dollars. The account gets compromised and the person's charged tens of thousands of dollars and the bank won't make them good. Like same thing with Bitcoin. It's possible that a business is not practicing proper security protocols. Maybe the internal staff is corrupted somehow, or maybe they're just lazy and they get compromised in other ways. You know, as long as you know what you're doing, which is very simple, write the words down physically, don't share them, and use proper security devices to spend them. Like it's the chances of failure are very, very, very low if you just take those simple steps. And actually, you sleep better at night when you get used to that model, because you're not worried about someone somewhere accessing your account without your permission. And there are a lot of people who regret custodial storage, not just in Bitcoin, but in all financial models. The only risk is you at the end of the day. And I mean, the stories you might have heard of people losing their Bitcoin, the most likely thing is like it was an old hot wallet that they just hadn't checked in years. Like if you use and a hot wallet is a internet connected device wallet. So if I had a wallet on my phone, that would be considered a hot wallet because this is connected to the internet directly. A hardware wallet is more like a cold wallet where the device itself doesn't connect to the internet. It just sends the data to your computer saying this is a valid transaction we are broadcasting. But the computer itself does not have the ability to alter that or sign the broadcasted transaction itself. In my case, the only Bitcoin I ever lost was I put like a couple dollars of Bitcoin on a smartphone, and then I upgraded, and I put the smartphone in my drawer for like 3 years. And then I was like, oh yeah, I had a couple dollars in that wallet. I opened up the phone, and I hadn't updated this in 3 years, so that phone, when it connected to the internet, the wallet was already compromised at that point. So I lost a couple of dollars. But if I use a hardware device that is not connected to the internet, that's not a risk. And if I update my software wallets, that's also a very, very low risk. So it's really dependent on you at the end of the day in all cases. And I trust myself more than I trust a mystery organization I've never met anyone from. Now this is a little bit of an old image. There's a lot more merchants now. It's growing all the time. But btcmap.org is I think it's an open source website to post businesses that accept Bitcoin. So you can actually log on as a business and put yourself on the map. All right, so the key points of this event today was to discuss fiat money and it's being broken. But since 2009, we've had an alternative in Bitcoin, and it is as simple as downloading a wallet and saving in Bitcoin instead of cash or dollars. All right, well, that was it. So, yay! Oh, yeah.